Welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of HPTV where my main mission is to help people thrive. And today I got a very special guest. This one will blow your mind. It's a blast from the past. I'm going to introduce him this way, but he's much deeper of a man than the way I'm going to introduce him. But to build that commonality, this is Eric Nies, the reality TV pioneer, if you will. I mean, I think that if Instagram was around back in the day, you'd have been the pioneer of that. You know, that's kind of like the correlation. But back in the day when I was watching MTV and that was like the social setting, if you were cool, you wanted to be part of that vibe, and you were kind of like the head honchman of that with the grind and the first MTV Real World. Eric Nies.
Thank you, my brother.
How you doing,
for having
man?
me. I'm doing amazing.
It's a pleasure to be sitting down with you, bro.
Yeah, you as well.
Yeah. So talking about MTV, I mean that's basically where the career started and all that. And so what was it like living with 7 strangers for the first time ever to be seen on TV in the big city of New York in what I've just learned is a $7.5 million loft? I mean, how old were you at the time, by the way?
I was 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah, just a little baby, right?
Just a little baby boy, just figuring
you
it out.
don't think that when you're 20,
you
though.
don't, because you think you figured it all out, right?
I knew it all.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was amazing. It was an incredible experience. Eye opener on so many different levels. Launched me into a whole new world and a career to be able to travel the world and meet very interesting people, very knowledgeable people, a lot of wise people along the way.
Okay.
And being in a house like that with 6 people that you don't know. I think, it was my version of college. I would imagine that's what college would be like, right? You go into this environment, you're in a dorm, you're living with people that you don't know, and you're just trying to figure out how to get along, and things don't always go great. So, and especially though when it's casted in a certain way. So you're casting certain personalities that, they do a much better job of it now, but back then, they're casting people for conflict, because you need story, right? And people want to be entertained. So how are you going to entertain everybody? But yeah, it was an eye-opening experience, and actually my very first spiritual experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can imagine there was a lot of spiritual and all kinds of experiences going on.
Yeah.
So you say that they were casting them in a way. Did they reality TV? The way that I look at it nowadays, especially, is it really reality? I mean, it seems pretty scripted out there. Was it kind of that way too? I know you were on the forefront of it.
Yeah. So our show, because it was the very first one ever,
it
wasn't scripted at all.
Okay.
They just said, we're going to take these 7 individuals, we're going to throw them in this loft, and we're going to roll camera and see what happens. And it was a learning process for them. So every single day they were learning about how to produce the show. And probably about halfway through it, things got kind of quiet in the loft because we weren't really interested in hanging out with each other. And since we were all from the tri-state area, we were able to go home and to, be with our friends.
Okay.
So they called us in, we had a dinner, and they said, okay, it's mandatory that you have to be at the loft at these times on these days, because we need to get footage of all of you guys together. And, and then that's when the conflict, really started, because we were forced to interact with each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Were they trying? What was producers and all that trying to like pivot people against each other? Was that?
They started to, because of that, because of this lull that was happening in there, and they really didn't have much. They started to plant things. There was a scene where I had done this modeling book, when I was probably 20 years old, where it was a nude book with Bruce Weber, and it was for charity.
Okay.
And Bruce Weber is one of the biggest photographers in the world, and to be able to shoot with him can just launch your modeling career, because once you shoot with somebody like that, then everybody else wants to shoot you.
Okay.
And so that book just appeared on the coffee table one day. I didn't personally bring it in.
Okay.
So somebody from production came in and put it down. Then they started setting up dates for people. They set up a photo shoot for me, but they told me that it was a real job, but it was with this beautiful girl, and we're like rolling around on the bed. So that scene in my show where I'm doing this photo shoot with this beautiful model, they set that up. Yeah. And once we, I actually sniffed it out when they put my book on the table, and I was like, this isn't cool. Like, you're playing the hand of God right now.
Right.
You're manipulating the situation. You're controlling the situation, or trying to control it. And I said, we all came together and said, if you guys don't stop doing this, we're walking, and you're not going to have a show.
Yeah.
And so they stopped.
Really?
And then they got what they wanted because, and this wasn't planned at all. The director of the show, off camera, had a fling with one of the cast members.
Oh, wow.
And they had a decision to make. Do we just let this go, or do we actually bring him into the cast? And they brought him into the cast.
Did they really?
Yeah, this guy Bill, who was a director,
wow,
hooked up with Becky in Jamaica when they went on a trip to Jamaica, and they filmed it, and they put it on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it like? Now, when you were filming this, did you know kind of what they were putting out there? Or when it aired, was it like, oh, that's what they're putting, like?
That was my spiritual awakening. That was my very first moment with spirituality. Because to me, spirituality is simply looking at yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Objectively observing yourself.
Okay.
Why do I behave the way I behave? Why do I feel the way I feel? Why do I think about the things I think about? How am I programmed? And so when those first episodes came out, and I'm sitting there in my house, and now I'm 21 years old, I'm with my family, I'm with my friends, and I'm watching myself behave in a certain way, and I'm feeling, I don't really like what I said right there. I don't like the way I look in that scene, or whatever it is. So I was very judgmental of myself.
Okay.
Insecurities come up, whatever it is, like we all do.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a mirror for me. The real world was a mirror for me. And my life would never be the same after that.
So that obviously the real world transcended into the grind.
Correct.
Right? And the grind was like this massive thing that just took off for you.
Massive.
Now, did those feelings and that spiritual awakening that happened from the real world translate into how you acted on camera on the grind?
Absolutely not.
You would think it would, right?
The programs were, and the spirits and the ego and the fame and the money and the whole thing, it was so powerful. So it was like I was in a trance.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to explain, to help people to understand what it's like to go from just your friends knowing who you are to millions of people. And wherever you go, at any given moment, somebody could jump out of the bushes and either say something really nice to you or say something not so nice.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of jealousy.
Sure, you had a lot of haters.
But I also had a lot of lovers.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, in both senses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's challenging. It's really, really challenging to go through that. And I was enjoying my life. I really enjoyed my life before that. I had great friends, I was in New York City, modeling, commercials, in the club scene, Central Park, rollerblading, skating, surfing in the summers, playing ball in the park. Yeah. I really enjoyed my life. But fame brought this whole new element to it that is not so easy to navigate.
Yeah. If you, knowing what you know now, and you had a chance to go back and talk to 18-year-old Eric, would you tell yourself anything different? I mean, because you were probably aspiring to be famous or to have that limelight, to be on TV. Yeah. Obviously you're kind of going that direction in the career. Would you do anything different? Would you prepare yourself in a different way? Would you deter yourself from that?
That's a great, great, great question. And if we would have talked a few years ago, I probably would have a different answer.
Okay.
But because I've been on a very intense transformational healing journey for myself, I wouldn't. It happened exactly the way that it was all supposed to happen. And the reason why I can say that is because if those things didn't happen to me in my life, I wouldn't have experienced this incredible healing path to self-discovery. It's because of all of those things that happen, because of the hiccups and falling down and abuse and drugs and, all of those things, the traumas and everything that you experience in your life are like where my superpowers lie. Like in all those suppressed emotions and in those fears that were created from all of those experiences.
Right.
They helped me to have a greater understanding of this planet of free will and choice with this duality of love and fear. This is not an easy planet to navigate through.
Right.
It's very complex and very tricky, and it can take you out in a second. Right?
I agree with you. To that point, our internal world is very tricky and very intricate. I mean, I'm talking about our brain and the way our body works and how you can nurture it back to life. I mean, you look at my situation, and I agree with you. Had I not been able to go through what I've gone through the last couple of years with my cancer battle and then all the stuff leading up to it throughout life, I wouldn't have the experiences to draw on to be able to help people in the situation I'm in right now.
Yeah.
Which I think is fulfilling my purpose in life.
Absolutely.
Right? And
100%.
I imagine you feel the same way.
The first thing that I thought when I walked into here, and then you told me when you created this and why, immediately I thought, oh, wow, what a blessing.
Right.
What a blessing that cancer was.
Yeah.
Because now look what you're doing with your life, and you're able to reach thousands of people with your story and bring people on to share their stories, to educate, inspire others to heal.
Yeah.
What a blessing. What I thought was the worst thing that happened to me in my life, that literally almost took my life from suicide, I would find out 18 years later in the middle of the Amazon jungle drinking ayahuasca with the Shipibo tribe, that the worst thing that I thought happened to me was actually my greatest blessing.
Incredible. It's absolutely incredible to have that experience. But like you said, when you're going through life, you never can feel that. Like, you have to go through the experience, live in it, find your way out of it, or find a solution to get yourself in a better mindset to then get back into life and society, to realize that was a blessing. There's no way 2 years ago when I got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer that I was going to tell you that this is going to be the greatest blessing of my life.
Yeah.
But I'll stand right in front of you right now, look you in your eyes, and tell you this is the greatest blessing of my life because of how I responded, how God worked in my life, how amazing people like yourself have come around and given me other tools and resources to make for a better day.
Yeah.
And I think that's what life is all about, is that we get the opportunity to go through it as individuals, but then we get an opportunity to make a choice, whether we get to share that with other people or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where the blessing lies, is the ability to share it now. Like, you have an ability to connect with people in a way that you can help somebody. Not everybody has that trait either. And I think sometimes you have to find it through, life's adversities to get that leadership or whatever. But you've always kind of had a platform to share your life and inspire people, whether it was with your rock hard abs and dance with a bunch of hot chicks, or if it's with your spirituality and understanding how to ground yourself and appreciate and live in gratitude. Like, it's just such a beautiful thing to watch the evolution of what a man can do.
Having these experiences in your life, but also having a platform, and then what do you do with it? Do you share? Do you use it to inspire others? in what way are you in service? Are you giving back for what's been given to you? You know, and I have a really strong connection with nature and understanding how the four elements all work with each other in unison and in harmony, right? And that's what we are. We are these four elements. And so if the sun and the air and the water and the earth is constantly, you know, selflessly giving itself to us and to each other, I'm talking about the four elements,
right?
There's this natural flow of giving and receiving,
right?
And if we're not in that natural flow, anxiety, depression, potential disease, right? So with Jeremy, this is a perfect example, because when Jeremy and I met, we met on a show on VH1 called Confessions of a Teen Idol.
Okay.
And when I met Jeremy in the kitchen, and he had his bag of his products, and I had my bag of my products, superfoods, supplements, or whatever. And all of his stuff was synthetic, and all of mine was whole natural foods.
Okay.
And so, you know, we connected on that level. Now, I could have just been like, look at this guy with his synthetic, you know, crap.
Right.
And he was actually doing more harm to his body than he is helping his body. You know, or I could engage and share what I've learned.
Right.
And so that's what happened. That's how our relationship started, and then it blossomed from there, because he was interested. He wanted to get better. He was on his healing path. I had already done all of that. So I was able to share that knowledge with him, and literally within 5 minutes, he was agreeing to go on a superfood fast. And so for the next 10 days, he went on this superfood fast that I co-created with a friend of mine in the desert after doing a 43-day fast in the desert.
Wow.
And this program was created from that. And so for the last 15 years, this program that I created called the Beauty Way, I would bring people into the desert, mostly drug addicts, and detox them and heal and transform them in 30 days. And so, you know, Jeremy shared with me his background and his story, what he was going through. I shared mine, and he jumped right on board, and it changed his life forever. And that's why he's on the path that he's on now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible. So you went from, you know, this talk about how you learned about this stuff. Like, has this always been a passion of yours, this natural healing, this you know, eating well, all that? Were you always paying attention to that, or was there something that triggered that movement in your life?
I grew up in an athletic home.
Okay.
All my whole family comes from an athletic background. Like, my grandfather's brother was, you know, a lightweight champion back in the day. My other grandfather's brother was one of the best offensive linemen to ever play professional football. He played with Vince Lombardi.
Okay.
My father was a referee in the NBA. My brother was the sixth punter drafted to the Bills, you know, back in 92 or whenever that was, you know, played college ball. So I was a serious athlete, and that my world revolved around that.
Okay.
My brother, when he went to U of A, he took a course on nutrition.
Okay.
And shared some information with me. You know, there was never really emphasis on food. We just ate a lot, whatever it was. But it was more or less healthy at the time.
Okay.
You know? But when I was 22 years old, because I messed around with steroids when I was younger, I don't know if it was because of the steroids or whatever it was, but when I was about 22 or 23, I was working out at Gold's Gym in Venice, and my right arm blew up like a balloon.
Really?
And my the vein that runs down into my arm was being pinched by my pectoral muscle and pushing down on one of my ribs. And so the doctor said to me, well, we could put you on blood thinners, but if you cut yourself, you could die.
Wow.
And he said, it's going to be dangerous for you to play sports. And this guy, it was basically, he was like a purple dinosaur.
Right.
Like, no, that's not the answer.
Yeah, it's not happening.
So I started searching for ways to naturally thin my blood, and I found dark cherries. Dark cherries are the most antioxidant fruit in the world.
Okay.
And so I started taking the dark cherry juice, and that was the beginning of my adventures with superfoods.
Okay.
Then I hit rock bottom from my addiction to drugs.
Okay.
And I met my grandmaster. And this was an 8th generation Chinese medicine grandmaster, 21 Den black belt, 3 different martial arts, grandmaster of the sword, grandmaster of the I Ching and Feng Shui and Buddhism, and Far East grandmaster, whose mom was the queen of the mountain people in Vietnam. And my brother met him 4 years prior to me, and he always talked about the master, the master, the master. And so one day I was at a party, a late night party, went all night long, burning the candle on both ends. I was at rock bottom. I went through this incredibly traumatic experience in the entertainment industry that destroyed my career with MTV and all these incredible things that were going on. I was manipulated, controlled, and abused and taken advantage of, and had $250,000 stolen from me, and my car and my career and everything. And that was my first consideration with suicide. And so when I met my grandmaster for the first time after this party, I hadn't seen my brother in a while, and I said, what are you up to now? And he says, I'm bringing Jack and Sal to go see the grandmaster. And in that moment I said, I'm coming, I'm going. So I went to go see him. We spent 4 days with him, and he was an extraordinary man who passed away last year. But he was my first teacher, and I lived off and on with him for 6 or 7 years in his house with his family. And he did this thing called a vibrational reading, where he can touch your body and somehow have access to the records of your soul and your health.
Really?
And he said to me, you have your blood. He said, my son, your blood is like mud.
Really?
If you don't change your ways, within 10 years, you develop a blood clot and you die.
Really?
You very toxic.
Oh my gosh.
You do a lot of drugs, yeah? I didn't tell him anything about me. He goes, you put a lot of drugs into your body, yeah? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, your blood no good. And, so I left his house with 3 months worth of herbs to detox and cleanse my body. And before we left, his wife came out and said, the grandmaster said you can ask him 4 questions. Very strange. He never offered that to anybody. Only really? You and your friends.
Really?
And I was like, yeah. And so I said to him, can you train me? Can you make me as powerful as I can be and heal me? And then I asked him a question how did they build the pyramids or something like that? Right. And so he goes, here, you go home with these herbs. When you're finished, if you want me to train you, don't call, just show up. And I went back, and that was the beginning of the transformation and the healing of my soul.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. I may butcher the ayahuasca. Ayahuasca. I heard you say that, and I've learned a little bit about that. I had somebody tell me about that and that experience and what that does and how it opens up new opportunities and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You talk about plant healing, and I don't know if you want to talk about specific plants or whatever, but talk to me a little bit more about that, because I'm really intrigued with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was introduced to plant medicines, specifically ayahuasca, about 10 years ago through Mona Palaka, who's one of the 13 indigenous grandmothers. It's a council of 13 grandmothers that came together through a prophecy and a vision. And grandmother Mona has been more of my spiritual guide. So I was being invited to drink ayahuasca for about 4 years, being in Los Angeles. A lot of people were starting to do it, but I always felt that if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go down to the jungle, to the roots of it. I've always been that way. I want to get to the root cause of whatever it is, where it started. And so I called her up. I told her that I felt it was time for me. I was ready. And so she called somebody who was connected to a couple of the other grandmothers that actually lived in a community down in Brazil called Mapia, and the Santo Daime Church, which is an ayahuasca kind of sect based around Christianity.
Okay.
And so I went down there, spent 3 months, and I lived with two of the grandmothers down there drinking ayahuasca. Had some really incredible experiences. But it wasn't until about 5 years ago where I went through the dark night of the soul, which is maybe some of your listeners have experienced this, but the dark night of the soul is when all of your suppressed emotions from the traumas in your life, they all come to the surface at the same time. And you feel like you're psychotic. You feel like you're losing control. You're constantly having breakdowns. You're incredibly emotional. And I couldn't leave the house. I wasn't comfortable in public. I didn't know who I was or where I was or what was happening. And so I tried to manage it and deal with it the best that I could for a while and work with healers and different, shamans and stuff like that. But it was time for me to go back to the medicine, because I made an agreement with somebody that we would stay away from the medicine and just work on our stuff without it. And I said, I really need it. So I was introduced to the Shipibo tribe of Peru.
Okay.
And the Shipibo are the ancestral lineage holders of ayahuasca. The lineage of ayahuasca was passed down from the Inca to the Shipibo, and there's relics that go back more than 5,000 years of ayahuasca.
Wow.
Now, it wasn't until about 40 years ago that the people started drinking ayahuasca. Only the shaman drank ayahuasca. So you would go to the shaman with whatever your issue was. The shaman would drink the ayahuasca, and it would open up his vision. It activates your pineal gland in your third eye, so that you can see the spirit world. You can see the unseen world.
Okay.
So there's these energies that are all around us that we can't see, that are playing a very big role in all of our lives, influencing us in many different ways. But when you drink ayahuasca, and once you've cleansed and purified your body from your traumas and your suppressed emotions and all that stuff, once you're clean enough, then your vision starts to open. So people would go to the shaman for a healing. They sit in front of the shaman drinks the ayahuasca, the shaman gets a vision, but the Shipibo also work with thousands of plants from the jungle, not just ayahuasca.
Okay.
And the Shipibo say that there's a plant for everything.
Okay, cool. I say that a lot myself.
There's a plant for everything, for all healing, no matter what it is. And when you work with the Shipibo, you have a choice that you can work with these different plants in different ways, whether they're healing diets or learning diets. And so this is fascinating for your listener. So if you're listening, listen closely, because you probably have never heard anything like this before.
Yeah.
The way that these shamans of the jungle work with this medicine and how the plants communicate with them. So imagine you're in the jungle sitting in what's your ceremonial space. It's called the Maloka, and it's dark because the ceremonies happen at night. So everything is dark. You're just hearing the sounds of the jungle. You drink the ayahuasca, the feeling starts to come on. The shaman comes over and he sits in front of you and he sees what's going on inside of you. In that moment, the plants that he has been dieting and working with for however many years, 10 years, 20 years, my teacher's been working and doing these plant dietas for 51 years.
Wow.
So the knowledge of all of those plants are within him. And here's how this works. So the shaman gets a vision, and then in the moment, the plants offer him a feeling in his heart of how to address the issue in the person. And then they don't memorize these songs. They're called Icaros. And in the moment, the shaman sings the feeling into your body.
Okay.
To assist you in, releasing and breaking up the suppressed emotions or the traumas or the fears or whatever it is that happened to you in your life. Heal your colon, heal your liver, your kidney, your heart, right? And then what you can do is you can choose to go on a diet with these plants. So right now I'm on a master plant dieta, and I'm in an apprenticeship, a learning apprenticeship with these maestros or these teachers, these masters of the Shipibo tribe. So when I sat in front of my teacher and he looks inside of me, he says, okay, you're going to work with these two plants want to work with you. They've informed me that they want to teach you.
Wow.
And then in that moment, the plants give them the feeling, they sing an energetic seed, and they plant the plant into your body.
Okay.
And so the spirit of the plant is planted into your body. And then over time, it grows inside of you. And as the plant grows inside of you, it gets roots, it sprouts, it grows, and it blossoms.
Okay.
And there's stages of the knowledge of that plant that is then shared with you. And all of a sudden, you just start singing one day.
Really?
Really.
That is wild.
Or all of a sudden, one day, this trauma from your past that you had with your father is gone. And your relationship with your father has completely altered. I have a friend of mine, and this will blow you away. So the work that I do with people and why I do this is because what I'm interested in is ancestral lineage healing.
Okay.
I look at the programs of your subconscious mind and how they were imprinted onto you by your parents and your grandparents and so on, to help people to understand why they operate the way they do. Why do they behave the way they do? Why do they get triggered? Why do they keep attracting the same people into their life over and over, the same relationship? Or they're stuck in a relationship. It's not evolving. It's not growing, right? And so a friend of mine who grew up in a very abusive home with a lot of anger and rage from his father, that was all projected onto him. And he has been working through his lineage with anger and rage and all of this energy from, all these different lifetimes. And about 4 months ago, we were in ceremony together, and he had a massive breakthrough in one of these ceremonies with his father. And he actually was feeling like calm and loving and accepting of his father, and a lot of empathy and compassion for his suffering. And his father that night at 3:00 in the morning woke up in the middle of the night throwing up.
Really?
And he wasn't sick. Because our souls energetically, we're all connected. There's when we're talking just about energy, right? Frequency and vibration.
Right.
There is no separation.
Okay.
All energies are constantly interacting with each other all the time, right?
Makes sense.
Some of them attract and then some of them bounce off of each other, but they still they're interacting with each other. So our soul, the spirit of who we are, this energetic being of vibrational light energy that is housed inside this earth body, right, is connected to your family, connected to your wife and your kids and your mom and your dad and your brother and your sister. We've all shared experiences, not in this lifetime, but many, many lifetimes. When you start working with these plant medicines and you start getting access to your past lives, and you can actually observe yourself in a past life. But what a lot of people don't understand is that the issues that they're dealing with today, they actually brought with them from a past life. That's why you hear like some kids, right? Some people, they were born into this really traumatic experience. The reason why is because they just got out of the traumatic experience in a past life. And they got to finish the job. They got to finish the work.
Wow.
the spiritual work, the healing work, the transformational work.
Now, when you're doing this process, are you trying to break that? Or are you trying? Do you then recognize it and nurture it and allow it to happen?
Of course, yeah. You want to nurture it. You want to walk into it. That's why when they say when you work with ayahuasca in this way, you're stepping into the fire. You're stepping into the fire of your soul, and they call ayahuasca the vine of death, because there's many deaths that we have. And it's like you're having these rebirths. You're shedding the skin. You're shedding away the old experiences, those old energies that don't serve you, that cause resistance inside of you or cause fear or insecurity, low self-esteem. You know, these traumas that we carry around inside of us that cause anxiety or depression in some way. And this fear that we create in our mind that's not real, right? When you found out that you had cancer, you could have gotten paralyzed by your fear.
Yeah,
and be gone.
A lot of people do.
A lot of people do. But there's other people who they take that energy and they do something courageous with it, powerful with it. Right? They don't get frozen in that fear. They become hopeful, and then they come out of it and they create something beautiful to share and inspire others. Amazing.
Right.
Incredible what you've done.
Thank you.
Incredible. You're an inspiration to millions of people that are going through a similar situation. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about sharing, having a platform to share our experiences in vulnerability. No fear.
Yeah.
No fear of someone judging us, criticizing us, attacking us, or whatever it is, for us speaking our truth and sharing our earthly experiences, because every single person that's listening right now have all dealt with depression, anxiety, abuse, mental, physical, sexual, in one way or another. And I found that in my journey, when I started to become vulnerable and I wasn't ashamed of sharing the things that happened to me in my life, the connections and the relationships that I started to develop were so beautiful, so empowering, because there's a mutual respect and honor that goes on when we can be vulnerable with each other, because you're trusting me with like your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah.
The things that I'm so scared to talk about because I don't want to lose you as a friend.
I don't think of me differently if I tell you this.
Right.
And I see where you're going with that, and that's the healing part, is being able to be comfortable with those, with your situation, with understanding those things and allowing it being part of your story.
Yes.
To then, transform not only yourself but other people's lives as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because what are we doing here?
Right. Exactly.
The world's in chaos right now. I mean, this whole thing, not to get too into it, but the whole thing with the coronavirus. There's probably this coronavirus is affecting more people with fear than actual illness or physical illness, because fear is mental illness.
Yeah.
And so then what happens? Yeah, and then what happens when you have mental illness? It affects your physical body.
It sure does.
The fear of the coronavirus is having more of a negative impact on society than the actual virus itself.
Isn't that crazy? It's mind-blowing, because you're so right, and we tend to cripple ourselves based on those fears. I'm working with somebody right now that I hope is listening to this. I know he will, because I'm going to have him watch it, but he's dealing with a lot of anxiety, like debilitating anxiety, Eric, to where he can't get out of the house. It's stolen his car keys. Like, he has no ability to get out of this right now. Like, he's really trying. And what I've talked to him about is opening his mind up to breath work and opening up his mind to being able to talk about this stuff. He was able to release some emotions the other day.
Great.
And what I found with him is that he's in this mess right now because he's worked really hard his entire life to cover up the messes that have presented themselves to him. And I think that when people don't address their issues in the forefront and understand them mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, all those things together, it it doesn't remove it. It just puts it off to the side, and it's going to come back and get you. And the more that times that you do it, it just mounts up. Like you said, it seemed like all of the problems came to the forefront, and they were all right there in front of you. Right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people in this world right now that are suffering from depression and anxiety and these mental illnesses that we allow ourselves to get trapped in, because basically these are just thoughts from what happened in the past, or fearing that history will repeat itself in the future based on your past experiences. And the message that I'm trying to get across to people is that the best gift you can give yourself is to live right now in the present, and not allow those things in the back to dictate what can happen in the future.
Right.
But the only way to do that is that you have to sit in it in the moment. You have to address it. You have to get comfortable with the situation. And I think that the best way to do that is, one, to meditate on it, do your own internal searching, but then to talk about it. And 100%. Go back to that sharing point.
Vulnerability.
Right? Yeah.
Sharing your story. And first find somebody that you know that you can trust, that you're comfortable with, and start there. And take time, get together, and share the story. And then whoever you're talking to, they just listen. They're not giving advice, because you want to be careful about where that advice is coming from, because it might trigger them. You want to make sure that the advice is pure and it's clear and clean, and that there's some wisdom behind it, right? Because you don't want to get influenced in the wrong way. But yeah, talking about it, because basically what's happening is that those experiences that he had in his life are creating a feeling in his body that he doesn't like, right? And those are the suppressed emotions. If you're avoiding it, and you're distracting yourself from it, and you're making jokes, all that's going to do is fuel that. It's going to expand that energy, because the reason why you're choosing to distract yourself from it is because you're in fear. And so you're just creating more fear, more fear, more fear, more fear, more fear, more energy, more energy, more energy. And then eventually you get to the point where you're going to implode. Like right now, if he's not using, that's why you go to a drug. That's why you go to alcohol or weed or whatever it is, to help you manage the suppressed emotions. But what you really want to do is release them and let them go, and forgive and accept and love those experiences. Because as I said earlier, your superpowers are in your suppressed emotions. If you can find the courage and the strength to go back into the traumas of your life and revisit them. In shamanism, we call this recapitulation. And what that means is you go back and look at the things that are holding you back from moving forward. The Native American tribes of North America, they never looked back. The only reason that they would look back in their life is to identify things that are holding them back from moving forward. Like when you see the writings on the walls in like Egypt, there's always that photo of them with one foot in front of the other. That means walking forward, constantly changing, constantly evolving. Because if you're not constantly changing and constantly evolving and learning and growing, and you're not in the ebb and flow of life with expansion and compression, expansion and compression, expansion and compression, if you're not in that natural flow, you get stuck. And that's where the depression and the anxiety comes in. We get complacent. We get lazy. Right? And then we sit inside all day and we watch TV and we eat unhealthy food, and then we fester and marinate in our whatever it is that you're creating in your mind.
And then it's just, man, you just keep slipping deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you're depressed and you're locked in a room, and then you got suicidal thoughts, and it's just this this energy that keeps begetting worse energies.
I'll give you an example. My best friend.
Okay.
This is my best friend that I grew up with.
Okay.
We were inseparable. We played every sport together. He was like my brother. I didn't know much of his childhood, right? And years later, he would end up on the street. And my brother and I found him on the street, and we got him cleaned up. And I eventually would bring him into the desert to take him through my program because of, alcohol and drugs. But a year prior to that, we're in New York City, and he's staying with a friend of mine and me. And I got him a job. It was the beginning when I wanted to, get him a job and get him some clothes and get back on your feet and, get your life back together. But I didn't understand the severity of the issue. And one night, it was either my birthday or his birthday. We were both Geminis, so I think we were celebrating together. And it was just him and I. And we were upstairs in the apartment having a conversation about life and this and that and his kids. And he said, E, there's just some things you don't talk about. And I said, what are you talking about, brother? I was like, I've known you my whole life. You could tell me anything. And he's like, no. There's just some things you don't talk about. And I was like, okay. So a year later, my brother and I were organizing him to go out to the desert to go through this program. My brother said, so what do you think? And he's like, I said, John, all I keep hearing in the back of my head is there's just some things you don't talk about. I said, there's going to come a moment when we're in the desert and he's going to have to talk because that's the only way that this works. He's going to have to talk about what happened. And if he doesn't, it isn't going to work. And we're 3 weeks into it. I got him all detoxed, looking amazing. He's in the saunas every day, mineral baths, superfoods, breath work, qigong, grounding, you name it, bro. He was just lit up, and we're sitting around outside feeling really good, and he starts talking, and I knew it.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it.
There we go.
Here it's coming, right? And he starts to tune in to whatever this big issue is, and his lip starts quivering. His nose starts shaking. His tears start coming. And in my mind, I'm going, please tell me. Please tell me. And he was just about to say it, and he got up and he walked away.
Really?
And I knew in that moment, that was it.
That was as far as he can go?
We finished the 1 week. We went back home. And the plan was he would go back home and start, working with my brother and stuff like that. 3 months later, he died.
Really?
And he wrote in his journal, he wrote before he died that he felt like he was going to implode because he was holding on to the guilt and the shame and the resentment and all that stuff. So if you want to liberate yourself from your own suffering, vulnerability is the key. Because all of us think that we're walking around with secrets, that we're hiding certain things. People don't know that I take these pills. People don't know that I drink on the weekends. People don't know that I smoke weed before I go to sleep. People don't know that I did this or I did that. And everybody's really good at wearing their mask. So they think. But when you get to know somebody, and you observe them, you get to know their personalities really, really well. And they're not such great hiders, of it anymore. And so, this is the key. This is the key to the liberation of our souls because, 3 years ago, it would be really difficult for me to say that, I was manipulated, abused, and taken advantage of and molested by a man. It was almost impossible for me to say that my very first sexual experience was with my friend who was a boy when I was 9 years old because of the fear of being criticized, the fear of being made fun of when I was a little boy. So I carried that around with me my whole life. And, you know, I lost my virginity. I was raped by a 19-year-old girl when I was 12 years old. My innocence was taken away from me. So I have all these traumas and all these things that happened to me in my life.
Yeah.
But they don't define me and they don't control me. I do now. Because right now, me saying that on this show to whoever's listening, if there's a guy out there right now who was, you know, concerned about how people feel about them because he had some sexual experience with another man at some time in his life, and I can inspire him in some way to help shake him up a little bit, to come out and speak his truth, it's assisting him in liberating himself from his own suffering. Right. That's why it's so important for us to be warriors of the light in vulnerability.
I love it, man. I mean, so much good stuff right there. I mean, I'm just blown away, kind of speechless, because I look back at a lot of different situations in my life and people that I talk to, and you're so right, man. Being part of growth is being able to vocalize and talk about those traumatic experiences, to grow from them. I'm sure that majority of your life, or a big portion of your life leading up to the point where you were finally able to release those things, you probably felt that it was normal to suppress that, and it's okay to leave it behind because that nobody else needs to know about that.
That's right.
But you had, and at the same time, you had no idea what it was doing inside of you internally. And now that you have become this enlightened man, that you understand how to tap into these things and nurture them and release them and use them for good, you know, it's just an amazing thing to watch a guy like yourself that in the regular public's eyes had all the trappings of the world, had it all figured out, like all this stuff, like just the glitz and the glam and the girls and the money and everything was there for you, but it wasn't serving who you were inside. And ultimately, you know, all that experience throughout your life has now, you know, been able to become such a tool for you to tap into so many other people's lives and help other people draw that stuff out.
Exactly.
And I feel like we just have this whole world of people that are allowing themselves to be numb when we don't have to be. We don't have to walk around with anxiety and depression and anger and hate.
No,
because God didn't mean for that to happen. He wants us to live in an abundance world filled with love and gratitude and loving each other and helping each other grow. And I think that that the more that we allow, my big thing is, you know, what is media and social media and TV and all this stuff, what is it really doing to us? It's showing us this fake world of what we need to strive for and how things are supposed to be, but that's nobody's reality. And everybody's got their own issues and their own problems and their own stories. But again, like I love hearing what you said. All those things don't define who you are. They're circumstances, they're traumatic experiences that happen in your life, but they certainly don't define who Eric Nies is. Right? You're a much more complex, full person.
I'm redefining myself every moment.
I love that.
Every moment.
Yeah.
Every conversation, every experience, every breath, every thought, every feeling. That's exactly what's happening in nature all around us.
Yeah.
The wind is going to blow hard and it's not going to blow at all.
Yeah.
The seas are going to get rough and the seas are going to get calm. You know, the sun shines and then at the end of the day, it dips down behind her horizon and it gets a little chillier. You know what I mean? So things are constantly changing around us, you know, and I feel that it's important for us to change too, to keep redefining ourselves, you know, keep searching, keep learning, keep exploring. You know, that's why I'm doing this master plant dieta, you know, this apprenticeship and this diet with the Shipibo, you know, to learn about these plants in the jungle. I mean, the plants know us better than we know ourselves. Like, we're going to these plants. Like, really think about that. The plants are teaching us, and they're helping to remind us who we are. These limitless potential beings of light that perhaps came from another star system somewhere out in the universe to this planet Earth of free will and choice, just for us to know what it's like to feel emotion. That's what I believe we're doing here. I believe that all we did was come here the only reason that we came here was to have an experience of emotion. And if you're suppressing your emotions and you're turning them off, are you living?
No.
Right?
No.
So, but, and again, and so with the plant medicines, whether it's ayahuasca or mushrooms or iboga or peyote, these plant medicines that have been around for thousands of years, that these indigenous tribal people have a union with, a connection to, they honor it, they pray to it. It's like their family. It's part of their family, right? So these plant medicines, it's difficult for us to sit down and meditate and look at our life, go into our past, revisit relationships with our mom and our dad. Some of us don't even have a relationship with our moms and our dads. We don't even talk to them. How am I going to heal my traumas with my father if my father won't even talk to me? Right. And I've reached out to him, 8 times, and he's just shut off. He won't talk to me. Well, guess what? You can go down in the jungle and you can drink ayahuasca, and ayahuasca will take you into those experiences, show them to you. You'll feel the emotion, and then you purge it and you let it go. And the more you drink, you peel back the layers of the onion to get to the root cause of what the issue is. And not just this lifetime. You can actually heal the lineage of your family. And it's like what I was saying earlier about my friend. He's doing the healing, right? He's the one drinking the ayahuasca, but his father's healing at the same time. Same thing is happening in my family.
Really?
Yeah.
So through your journey and your enlightenment with this stuff, people that aren't even doing the plant medicine are reaping the benefits.
Because we're all energetically connected.
And so because you're showing up in a different way and you're bringing a different ball game to like this enlightenment, now they're able to heal through your healing.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, multi-dimensional quantum energies and transformation of energy from one soul to the other. Like this is like deep, complex, energetic frequency, stuff we're talking about here.
Right. And people tend to get weirded out by this conversation.
Oh, and there's no doubt.
People are probably going to be watching this, be like, dude, come on now. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So everybody, about these plants, like he's just tripping.
Okay. So, and then here comes the challenge.
Okay.
Right. You're questioning me. If there are anybody who's out there who's a cynic, and thinks, nah, that can't be possible because it's not in your wheelhouse, right? It's not within your understanding based off of the experiences that you've had in your life.
Right.
But I'm just like you. I grew up from New Jersey, on the beach in New Jersey. I'm from the Jersey Shore, right? Lived in New York City. I was an athlete. I played sports in high school.
Right.
I had girlfriends and boyfriends or whatever you want to say. I'm just like you. There is no difference between you and I. The only thing that's different between you and I are the experiences that we've had.
Amen,
so if you're skeptical and you're questioning it, reach out to me. I'll let you know the next time I'm going down to Peru, and you can come along and go for a ride.
I love that.
And then you can give your opinion. So be careful about the judging.
I agree.
Be very, very careful about how you judge yourself and you judge others, because that perpetuates your suffering. Releasing our fears and releasing our judgments of ourself and others is how you liberate yourself from your own suffering. This is what Buddha figured out. There's a meditation technique that Buddha created called Vipassana. And it's very simply objectively observing the sensations in your body. And by the laws of nature, the way that the 4 elements interact with each other, if I take a big ball of air in a bag and I drop it in the bottom of the ocean, the air rises to the top. Volcano or lava in the earth rises to the top. When the sun hits the water, it evaporates and it rises up. Well, when your mind gets out of the way and stops suppressing things in your body, and you can get to that place of just objectively observing the sensations in your body, and you can do that equanimously, which means being in the eye of the storm, right? Being calm in the chaos. So if you can be calm in your own chaos by the laws of nature of how the elements interact inside of your body, those suppressed emotions have to leave because it's foreign to those 4 elements. You know, we were talking about these programs, right? The programs that are imprinted down to us from our parents, right? And then they're in our subconscious mind. And so we operate from these subconscious programs. Like 92% of our behavior comes from our subconscious mind, and 8% is more your conscious mind. It's like what I can smell, taste, hear, and touch, you know, visuals. That's like our conscious. Like here, I'm like consciously present to like what's going on, and I'm bringing in all this information. But as you process all of this information that's coming into your mind, it then starts to interact with the beliefs in your mind, the compartmentalized programming and ideas, like, you know, concepts and habitual thought patterns and all these different things, right? That we have picked up throughout our life from observing our mom and our dad and the environments in our house and where we grew up. And so because of that, when I work with somebody, I'm dealing with programs. I'm dealing with judgment. I'm dealing with skepticism. I'm dealing with fear. But when I start talking about, you know, the soul and where the soul comes from and where the soul's going and why we're here on this planet and duality and the planet of free will and choice, this is universal truth. Like, yes, we're on planet Earth. It's made up of 4 elements. Done. Proven.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. And you're a man, right? And you're on this planet and you have free will. You can choose what you want to do with your life. You can choose to entertain fear in your mind, or you can choose to entertain love in your heart. Your choice. You can choose to make excuses, or you can choose to say yes and experience whatever this life has to offer.
I love that.
You're the master. You are the master of what you manifest and what you create. Either you're creating opportunity, either you're creating inspiring, enlightening relationships filled with knowledge and wisdom, or you're choosing to sit in your house and drink alcohol and take pills and watch porn. The question is why?
Right.
Why do you choose? That's where I'm coming from. I want to know why I choose.
And you're saying that it's like it's deeply rooted within us, that we could pull that out and nurture it.
Correct.
Because I want to talk. Okay, so I'm this person that's on the outside looking in, saying, but Eric, I'm wired this way. Like, this is just the way I've been my entire life.
Yeah. So deprogram and rewire yourself. Next question.
Right. Okay.
You're programmed.
I get
You're
that.
wired. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
So then the question is, okay, so I am wired this way and I am programmed to behave this way. Okay, well then how do I deprogram, how to rewire? And that's what we're talking about, is having the courage to go back and say, how did my mom and dad wire me?
Yeah.
How have I been wired?
Yeah. Right.
Or you could say, nah, I don't care about that. All right, well then stop complaining.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
Stop making excuses. Stop blaming other people. Mm-hmm. Stop attacking other people. Stop projecting mm-hmm. your energy onto other people. Mm-hmm. Take responsibility for yourself. Hold yourself accountable. I feel like this is honestly really how I feel. I feel like we're these souls with this limitless potential, being to potentially create a universe or whatever. Who knows how powerful our brains are? Mm-hmm. We're accessing a small percentage of it, right?
Right.
And I feel like we came here to this planet collectively. All these souls agreed to come here to play this game on this planet of free will and choice. And it's a spiritual battle between light and dark, mm-hmm. love and fear. And either we're going to win the game, either love is going to win or fear is going to win. But then what happens? Mm. And so when I look back if I look at histories, I look at ancient civilizations, there's a lot of data out there of ancient civilizations that just disappeared. I don't know if you've ever looked at it in your views, but there's places like, they called it Atlantis, they call it Lemuria, even Egypt, right? Like, what happened? Why did all of a sudden those people all just disappear and get completely wiped out? And we all talk about meteors hitting the earth and the dinosaurs got wiped out, or, like whatever it is. Something dramatically shifted and changed that like wiped out a whole bunch of people. Are we next?
Right.
Are we the next ones that are going to get wiped out off of this planet because we're not taking care of ourselves and taking care of each other and taking care of this planet, being the stewards, the responsible, loving, compassionate stewards of this planet?
Right.
How long is she going to allow this to go on?
It's so true. It's a scary thought because as a society, we're running amok on her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
We are completely and totally disrespecting the earth that gives us life.
It's deep.
And it's super deep.
And it goes back to the ratio that you shared of we're tapping into like 8% of our conscious mind, but 92% of our subconscious. The conscious mind that's in the forefront is the hustle and bustle, it's the grind, it's keeping us going, it's what we think is so important. We need to start paying to that 92%.
Yeah, I think we all have amnesia. I think we all because there's a lot of indigenous tribes around the world. Their prophecies, they talk about this time that we're in as the great purification, the great cleansing, the great awakening.
Yeah. I feel like it is. Like there's a lot of people waking up.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt because of the internet.
Yeah.
So now we can go flip the whole thing around to the beginning of the show. Reality TV, Instagram, Facebook, podcasts. We have access to so much information now. Mm-hmm. The internet, to me, which I thought was bad a long time ago, I thought it was really negative. I see it as this incredible blessing. It's this network of information that billions of people can communicate on. The question is, what are you looking at?
Yes.
What information are you soaking up? Are you spending your time watching porno? Or are you spending your time learning about how to liberate yourself from your own suffering? Because all the information is available. It's there.
It's there.
So why do you choose the life you choose? Why do you choose to engage in the things that you choose to engage in? And the bigger question is, do you even care?
Wow.
And if you don't care, don't you want to know why? Yeah. Don't you want to know why you don't care? I was one of those guys. They actually created a row in my 6th grade class called the I don't care row.
Really?
Because of me.
Really?
And I was the student that was most often in the I don't care row.
Oh, wow.
Mr. West, bless your heart. He was my math and my math teacher and science teacher. The I don't care row.
The I don't care row. Man, I think this whole life has been paving its way for you to get to this moment. I mean, we talked about it before, but you talk about like the path that you've led, the the I don't care row.
Yeah.
You know, massive amount of sports and all that stuff.
Competition, division.
You know, social and TV icon, you know, all this stuff. And then now what you've done over the last 15 years or so, 20 years, has been just finding ways to tap into your inner being and bring out this enlightened man that, you know, we all look back upon in the mid 90s and can visualize your face on that stage, thinking how that was transforming and changing the world. But what you're doing now is really changing the world, man. Like you should be so proud of what you're doing in this space. And if there's ever anything that I could do to help amplify your message,
this is it. I mean, where I'm at right now in my life is that I want to get out. I want to share my story, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. You know, my brother Christopher is here with us today, and he's filming this and documenting it. We're working on doing a documentary so I can share my story. You know, so I can get the whole story out, this transformation out, right? So that's a main focus. I'm working on a TV show right now that's about plant medicine and my journey with plant medicines and traveling around the world, exploring all of the different indigenous cultures and their relationships with plants.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
so we're awesome.
So working on that too, and I just started this fundraiser on GoFundMe, and that's where people can contact me because I've started now this 3-year apprenticeship, and the apprenticeship is no walk in the park. It's funny because when we walked in, I get, you know, I haven't touched anybody in like a month and a half because we're not supposed to touch anybody. And I shook your hand when I came in and I forgot, but it's all good.
Okay.
But a part of our dieta and working with these plants is that you're building an intimate, personal relationship with the plants. So you're creating an environment inside of you and outside of you that the plants feel comfortable in because the plants are from the jungle. It's peaceful and quiet and serene.
Right.
So we're on what's called social dietas. If you were really to take it another step further, you would do an isolation dieta where you go off into the jungle and you drink your plants every day and they teach you in that environment. But we have to alter our diets. I can't have any salt, any sugar, no onions, no garlic, no hot, no spicy foods, nothing hot or spicy, no dairy, no cacao, no caffeine, no teas or anything like that. And we're not allowed to touch people. No sex, not with myself, not with anybody else. Not even in your dreams, because the plants will actually test you in your dreams. Your dreams become very, very vivid, and a lot of the teaching that comes from the plants happens in dream time. You have to be very careful about the types of movies that you watch, not too much violence, the types of music you listen to. And so basically your body becomes the soil, right, for the plant. So you want to create the most pristine compost to feed that plant physically and energetically. Yeah. And so, you know, I've dieted 2 plants before for like 8 months. But now I'm on 2 other plants, and this will be for 1 year. And then when I'm done with this year, then I go into other plants as I continue to learn. And eventually I want to be able to serve medicine in ceremonies, to be able to serve ayahuasca and to be able to put people on their diets, open up diets for other people. And so that's why I created this fundraiser on GoFundMe. Incredible. Is for that 3-year dieta. So, you know, I have information on there, you know, for my website and how to contact me, and for Instagram and Facebook and everything to go there. And what else? And the biggest dream of all is I want to build a healing temple. And I have my eyes set on Hawaii for that.
Do you? Now you live in Hawaii now.
I lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and now I'm back here in California. Okay.
Yeah. I lived in Hawaii for a year myself.
Oh, you did? Which island?
Oahu.
Nice.
I played basketball for Hawaii Pacific University.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were a baller.
I was, yeah. And,
me too.
Yeah, I got it down in my heart. Really? Yeah, that's right.
My dad's.
I remember. And you were on a move. Was it
Above the Rim?
Above the Rim.
Yeah. You know, my dad was a ref in the NBA for 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember. Yeah, you got some game. I remember watching you in
I
like the
love
celebrity
playing ball.
games and stuff like that. And yeah, I remember seeing
I
you
got
doing
to throw
your
a
thing.
nice off the glass alley-oop to Sean Kemp in one of those MTV
Nice.
things. We've been talking about duality the whole time throughout this talk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why is there so much division in our world?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have Republican and Democrat? Why did we grow up in a school system where sports are so prevalent and there's a home team and an away team? Why do you think that competition is what our childhood is all about? We are programmed to compete and fight for whatever side we're on.
Mm-hmm.
To the death.
Yeah.
You can't even walk out of your house. Some people, you walk some places and you have a Make America Great Again hat on, and you might get attacked.
Yeah.
Like that's where we're at right now. And that's scary.
It is scary.
But there's the flip side of that. And this is what I love about this game. Is that at the same time, while there is this fear going on out there, there's a whole bunch of optimistic warriors of the light that are healthy and strong, and they're not affected by this. And they're inspiring other people to not buy into the fear campaign, and it actually is assisting us in assisting others to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Because it's getting so darn obvious, isn't it?
Because of this thing.
This type of platform.
Yeah, because we get to talk about this right now to however many people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are talking like this.
Yeah.
And then it gets people thinking like, oh, yeah. Wait a minute. If my immune system is strong, I don't have to worry about a virus.
Right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yep. Yep. And it's not hard to build a strong immune system.
No.
It's just discipline and understanding what you're putting into your body. Ever since this whole disease came on me, and I've been getting these results that I've been getting. I've been through 36 rounds of chemotherapy, 30 rounds of radiation, 2 major surgeries, all in about a 2-year time span. And Eric, I got healthier through this.
There you
Isn't
go.
it crazy?
Amazing.
And it all is a testament to the water I was drinking, the herbs I was taking, the food that I was ingesting.
Yep.
And it was an evolution that has got me to this point today, because I know the foundation and I feel like I'm connected to myself.
Right.
And I feel when you become awakened to this idea that you can rewire your neurological system in the way that you think, your thought process, when you can redo the plumbing, if you will, inside your body by the way of nurturing it, the right herbs and foods.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, dude, you can make yourself this like superhuman almost, to where you're immune to disease, illness, negativity, bad relationships, bad people, because you're so addicted to the feeling of just feeling good.
Yeah.
And being enlightened and being able to look across at another man and smile at it and share experiences, and being able to talk about things like, the traumatic stuff that you've had to go through. Mm-hmm. But now you can sit here with a straight face and tell me about that experience and share with me how you got through with it and why that experience has made you the man today. And it makes sense to me, and it makes me want to tap into those things. It makes me want to find out why I'm scared, or why is my wife living with anxiety? Why is she scared about certain things?
Right.
She's in mind. I've been talking to you about this conversation because she always tells me I'm wired this way. This is the way I've always been. I've always been anxious. I've always had anxiety in these situations.
Yeah, you don't have to be.
That's what I keep trying to tell her, and I know she's going to watch this because she helps me edit, but she's going to, I hope that we watch some of the stuff that you've been talking about and all that. And I've obviously known who you are for many years because I used to watch you on TV, but I didn't know who you are as a man today. And I'm so glad that I did the research that I did and found out what you're up to. Dude, I'm stoked for you. Like, I see this man.
You too, brother.
That's just this, like, all the stuff that we thought mattered in life and thought was so glorified. And I want that. And I want this. Like, I want that, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want what you got going on right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Without the sex and the girls and the parties and all the stuff that was so glorious before.
Yeah, I got a funny story, bro.
Yeah.
So I guide people through, medicine journeys on the side, right? And and all different types of things. And so this one buddy of mine who I've known for like 25 years, he's like a professional gambler, and he's had issues with drugs and all kinds of stuff, right, in his life. And he lives that like, LA, Vegas lifestyle, and dear brother of mine, because I also come from that world, And so we go down to Costa Rica to do this, ceremony, and he was off on one side and I'm off on the other. And he comes walking over, and I got like all these like hummingbirds and vultures flying around my head, and just having this really amazing experience. And he comes walking over and he goes, "So, you're trying to tell me that the girls and the money and the drugs and the gambling, it's all bullshit?"
All right.
And I was like, yeah, it is. It's all bullshit. And we had this laugh. He goes, "Man, you got no idea what I'm seeing over here. Pixar's got nothing on you." He goes, "These trees are talking to me. The toucan is talking to me. They're sharing all this information with me about my life and the planet." And he goes, "Did you create this?" And I was like, "No, you did."
You did. Yeah. Yeah.
He chose to come there and do that. You know?
And allow himself the vulnerability to be able to be tapped into like that.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying being tapped into, you're tapping into yourself, but you got to allow yourself to go there.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself permission to be vulnerable.
Yeah, because like I was saying earlier, like the elements, right? The 4 elements, that's what we are. The earth is what we are.
Exactly.
The stars is what we are.
Yeah.
The space in between all of that is what we are. The dust of the universe. We are stardust. Right?
Yeah.
We are the sun. We are the ocean. We're the moon. We're everything. That universe is inside of us. So when you do these plant medicines, you're opening up a bridge to what's already inside of you. You're not going out. That's the deception. That's why there's so many distractions in our world. This system, this matrix of this design is designed to distract us from ourselves. Television, movies, music, concerts, food, medicines,
it's all there.
Everything is outside of us. But the only way, there is no other way. There is no other way. If you want to liberate yourself from your own suffering, you have to go inside.
Amen, brother.
There is no other way.
There is no other way, and there's maybe I'm wrong. Let me make this statement, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I feel that there's multiple avenues to get inside, and search for that and pull that stuff out. I start with diet. I think that if you're going to open up the gateways to your mind, you have to start with a good foundation within your diet.
Yep.
Right. So I think that that's important. I think that you need to definitely find space and time to allow yourself to get real comfortable with being uncomfortable with your past situations and
absolutely
and different things to where you can deal with them at the surface and go deep within them so they don't
bring them to the surface.
Not that they won't ever come up again, but as opposed to being something that derails you, it'd be something that fuels you.
They don't ever have to come up again. You can actually release the program.
Bury them, huh?
You don't bury it.
You
send it out to the ethers.
Okay.
It dissolves. It dissolves back into space because it's not real. It's not real.
Yeah, I see what you're
saying. It's an illusion that we create with our minds. Right. Fear is not real.
Yeah. You're right. It's an emotion. It's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a thought.
So you got to let
it's a thought that turns into a feeling.
Yeah.
And then you have an emotion about the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you do with the emotion? Do you honor it? Do you flow with it? Because emotions are like water. Or do you push it down?
A lot of people push it down.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, because don't.
That's what we've been taught.
Exactly. And so look at the design of the system.
Mm-hmm.
How many classes did you have when you were growing up in elementary school that taught you how to process your emotions?
0. If
Why?
you're emotional, you need to go to the office or go in the corner.
Yeah, so now let's be curious, George. Why is it designed that way? You think that unintelligent people created that system?
Oh, no.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
They
Very
know
smart
exactly what they're doing. And this is not conspiracy theory. We're not talking about a conspiracy theory. We're talking factual design of the system.
Uh-huh.
Just observe it.
Right.
But we're so distracted. They do a great job. The system, I don't want to say they or like it's a particular person. I'm saying the system is designed to distract us from the system.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then money and cars, and you got to pay your rent, and you got to just make ends meet, and you got to feed your kids, and you're all stressed out. And you don't have time to go to the beach or to go to the desert or to go to the woods to listen and look within and get quiet and still.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to find yourself. That's what I do. I take people, or I used to do it, I take people into the desert. Mm-hmm. I disconnect them from society.
Mm-hmm.
I put them on superfoods.
Mm-hmm.
I detox the chemicals and the bad food and all that stuff out of the body. Mm-hmm. So it frees up and it lightens the load. Mm-hmm. And then once you've lightened the load and you can bring more light in and remove the heaviness, it's much easier to look inside, to be calm, to be present and quiet. That's why meditation, yoga, exists. The reason why yoga exists is so that you can sit quietly, patiently, diligently, equanimously in meditation. It's not about going to a yoga class and seeing how hot you can make the room and how fast you can go through a pose. Yeah, the yoga is there to open up the body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a lot of tension.
Mm-hmm.
So that you can sit still in meditation and observe. Because most people sit in meditation and in 5 minutes they're in pain.
Mm-hmm.
Their knees hurt, their ankles hurt, their hips hurt, their shoulders hurt, their neck hurts. And they can't even sit quietly, patiently. Mm-hmm. And their mind is moving 100 miles an hour. So how are you going to release any suppressed emotions? How are you going to release the tension and those emotions that are stuck in the fascia, in your ligaments, in your tendons?
That's impossible.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
Right.
And then if you're in the yoga studio and you're doing the physical part of it, you know, what the best way to get to be able to do that longer and to do it better is to treat your body on the inside better so that you can reduce the inflammation, you can reduce the damage, you know, like repair some of the damaged cells and tissues and things so you can, you know, open up your body's ability to expand.
Yeah.
We've been talking about a lot of mind stuff too, but I think that the foundation of finding a healthy mind is finding a healthy body. Yeah.
I mean, I personally experienced this because my whole life I've been an athlete. Mm-hmm. And when I was a raw foodist, I was doing yoga every day. And yeah, I was flexible, you know, but I was still in pain. Mm. And I'm like, well, why am I still in pain? And so then 9 years ago, I got the clear intuitive message that I had to stop moving because I'm playing, you know, every sport that there is. I've been going 100 miles an hour, right? And so I decided, which was the hardest thing that I'd ever done in my life, I stopped everything. No more exercising at all.
Wow.
And I said, I need to let my body heal. Stop moving. Mm-hmm. And so I went and I did this Vipassana meditation. And in Vipassana meditation, it's about objectively observing the sensations in your body, but you need to do it calmly, quietly, patiently. and you just observe the feelings. And by the laws of nature, then those emotions and everything will naturally come to the surface to dissolve. And so when I went into Vipassana, when I went to bend over to, I could just barely touch the tops of my feet with my fingers. Mm-hmm. On the 5th day of doing this meditation, I was sitting in so much pain. I was so uncomfortable. It was like I was a stone of fire and pain.
Wow.
Because my back started throbbing, and then it started to expand out into the rest of my body. My knees, my ankles, my hips, all the injuries, all that stuff that I was holding in my body was throbbing. And I hit the sweet spot of the meditation where I wasn't judging anything, and I wasn't clinging to any blissful sensations. I wasn't judging any gross sensations. I had a talk with myself because of my background in martial arts and all the pain that I have chose to put on myself. I was like, all right, I'm just going to sit in this pain, and I'm going to observe it and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, all of a sudden, I had this moment where it was like a picture book of my life. It went, and all this stuff started releasing out of my body. And by the 10th day, I could put my forehead on my shins.
Wow.
I became incredibly flexible. I did nothing but sit there and observe. And now I was showing my buddies the other day, there's this kick that I learned in my martial arts. It's just a regular Taekwondo kick, but it took me thousands and thousands of kicks to be able to get my leg up to my head. I haven't worked out in 9 years. I could do the kick right now, and I can put the side of my leg by my face.
Wow.
And I don't get tight anymore. It's because I released all the suppressed emotions in my body. I healed the traumas.
Wow.
This is what the medicine does for you. The ayahuasca, iboga, the mushrooms, some Vipassana meditation, or going back into your childhood and do the recapitulation of revisiting the traumas in your life that you didn't heal. What are your judgments? What's your guilt? What's your rage or your anger? Where does it all come from? And be vulnerable and talk about it. Get it out.
Get it out.
Write it out. Whatever you got to do to get it out. Get it out of your body. Mm-hmm. Please liberate yourself. It's for you. It's for your happiness.
Yeah.
It's for your peace of mind,
And you can get so much more out of life that way.
Oh, yeah.
My gosh,
it becomes magical.
It does.
Because you're not getting in the way of your natural ability to manifest, to create. Because we're creators. You created a child, yeah? Mm-hmm. Whoever out there is listening who has a child, you created life.
Uh-huh.
So then why can't you create anything else that you want?
There you go.
You created the most incredible thing ever on this planet.
Yeah, in a human being.
Yeah. The most precious.
But you can't create a new thought process for yourself. You can't create a new life for yourself by tapping into something like
limited belief system
because we've been
programmed
and the wool has kind of been pulled over our eyes, and we're in a society and a system that's like we're like a machine now on a conveyor belt.
There it is.
And
that's it. Hamsters on the wheel.
The hamsters on the wheel, and we are all just chasing that piece
sheep
of cheese.
Going to the slaughter.
Yeah. Man, what a great conversation to have with you, brother. We got to do this again.
I'd love to.
I would love to do this. I want to stay in touch with you. I want to get more involved with what you're doing.
Awesome.
I think everything that you're about is very valuable to this world. I think that your story needs to be heard by everybody, man. I mean, because we put so much ownership on the likes and the comments on social media and the follows and all this other stuff. And you lived that life.
Yeah.
You lived the life before it was follows and likes and all that stuff, but you basically paved the way for us to get here. And for you to sit here and share these stories, I could tell that the way that you're living your life right now is far better than what you've done before.
It's not even close.
Not even close. It's so much more rewarding. It's so much more enlightening. I mean, I could just see the happiness glowing out of you right now, bro. It's pretty cool to experience. And
nice,
thank
brother.
you for coming on this show and sharing your story and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there suffering from a lot of different things. And you know, I feel like all this suffering can start going away, and it could start diminishing, and we can turn this pendulum that is swinging where, dude, there's like more 40-year-olds contracting GI tract cancers than ever before. Why? Because of what's in our diets and what's in our waters and all this other stuff. And when you listen to somebody like you or somebody like myself that has been through these things, like, you have to understand, find those dark moments, find the difficult things that you're going through, deal with it, and then find ways to make yourself feel better. Because my whole mission is, like, if you could feel better in life and you can smile more, you're gonna do more amazing things. You're gonna be able to write your own destiny.
Yeah.
But it starts with a decision.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's a conscious decision for yourself. Yeah. And I think that you know, I'm glad that decision was made for you, and it sounds like it was on that day when you finally saw yourself on TV, and it changed your life.
Yeah, it changed my life. Well, all those beautiful things that you just said about me, I can say the same exact things about you.
Well, thank you.
You know, a little bit about your story, but I see what you're doing here, and yeah, you saved your life, you turned your life around, and now you're sharing your experiences with others, and so, you know, that's an honorable choice to make, and you know, I applaud you.
Well, right on, brother. Yeah. We're doing this thing together, and doing it. I got a note on there that, you know, our mutual friend Jeremy and us, we're all kind of on the same parallels of just trying to help people see a better day. And I think it's just, you know, your discovery on what you needed to do to change your life and how you got there is a different pivotal point and journey than Jeremy. Yeah. And it's a different pivotal point and journey than mine. But what happens is like, we've all got these things that we could draw upon to change our life on. And I just challenge anybody that's watching this to dig deep and realize that the way that you're living right now can get better. Yeah. It can get better. You can live a better life. You can live a healthier life. You could feel better. And it's just simple decisions on what I think to be just the two main things: what you put in your body and what you put in your mind.
Yes.
You know, that's it. You know, and you know, there's things around that, who you're hanging out with, all these other things that go along with that. But it's simple: what you fuel your body with and what you fuel your mind with.
That's it.
That's it.
It's beautiful.
And then we could do it.
Well, let's get a third chair, and I'll come back with JJ.
That sounds like a great plan. We're going to make that happen.
Cool.
So anyway, we'll close it down, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking in this long. I hope you enjoyed the show as much as I did. I learned a lot today, and I'm definitely going to take a lot of what I've learned from you, Eric, and take it into the field that I'm doing and the people that I'm working with. Nice. And I just hope that what you're seeing today is a man that you know, we all strive to be like, that man on TV, the guy that had it all the trappings in the world. But at the end of the day, it really wasn't serving him the way that he needed it to. And I'm just so thankful that you found your sweet spot, dude, because you are changing the world. You know what I'm saying?
Brother.
And it's in a much better way than dancing on TV.
Yeah, well,
but that was part of the plan. And
it's a part of the plan. Maybe it'll come back. That was a good time, brother.
I can imagine it was.
But yeah, just to all your listeners out there, I just want to send massive amounts of galactic, universal love, healing, transformation to all of you. If you have any questions, you know, please reach out to me. I love sharing, especially if it means that I'm helping somebody. And, you know, again, like I said, everybody can find me at the GoFundMe page. Just go to GoFundMe and put in Eric Nies, and that's where I'm at.
There you go. And we'll put the links down below right now.
Sweet.
And we also got the website, so you'll be found, and I appreciate you.
Great.
So thank you for being here.
Appreciate you too, brother.
Right
Thank
on,
you.
man. Yeah.